Hello and welcome to the Actual Tech Media EcoCast. My name is Jess and I am excited to be here with you all today. But before we jump into our content, I have some basic information that I want to cover with you. All right, let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console. And we're going to start with the questions window. So if you haven't already said hi, there is a whole audience of cool humans out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Now, keep in mind that if you do have any technical issues today, a browser refresh is going to fix just about anything. But if those tech gremlins are clinging on today, no problem. Just throw a comment in the question section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you, so throughout today's EcoCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over a live chat, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentations. Now, if we don't get to your question during the live webinar today, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us will be following up after we wrap. All right, next up, there's going to be lots of cool aha moments on the EcoCast today. And if you want to share those with your community, we've made it nice and easy for you. You can use the Twitter button right there in your audience console, and the hashtag for today's EcoCast will be automatically added to your post. All right, our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the handouts tab for some awesome resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection, solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go explore. Now, if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes that we'll be giving away throughout today's EcoCast. I'm going to tell you a bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. First, you do need to be here live in attendance at the EcoCast in order to qualify to win a prize, and we will follow up with all of you after we wrap. Now, all winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. Now, if you don't know what those full T's and C's are, that's fine. We've got the full thing for you. Just head on over to that handouts tab, click in, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find them waiting for you there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember is that we love getting all your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we actually have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. So in today's EcoCast, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our live sessions. Now, the expert speakers and teams will review all questions asked after we wrap the webinar, which means that even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. If you are a lucky winner here today and you would like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about your big win, and we'll get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have you all here with us live at the EcoCast today, and we want to keep that good feeling going, so let's connect on social media. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and on LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. Now, if you're looking for more awesome content and resources right after we wrap the EcoCast today, be sure to subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and, hey, grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or a coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you'll find a link to do that right in your handouts tab, and you will also be automatically redirected at the end of the webinar. And both you and your coworker or friend could win a prize, and we hold those drawings every month. So be sure to refer a friend because, it could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for all the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your handouts tab, fill out a quick application, and the Actual Tech crew will then match you with some vendors that we think you should probably be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you get to choose to join in, like surveys, test runs, new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, you'll chat with great people, and you'll learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply, or hey, send that link to a decision maker on your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you all about one of my favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find out everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, prevent, and recover. This site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. Go check it out and start exploring. All right, I have one more exciting resource I have to tell you about today, and that is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. It's going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books will work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and as I said, they are completely free. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in that handouts tab as well. All right, well, we have covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited to dive in. So let's get going.
All right, well, welcome to this Actual Tech Media EcoCast. Today's topic is the cloud-powered enterprise, creating business value. So I want to echo Jess and just say a big thank you for joining us. On the EcoCast today, we've got some of the most innovative leading companies in the industry presenting today. You're going to be hearing from experts at Akamai, SAP, LeanIX, and Rubrik. So, that's a lot of different sessions full of innovative solutions, hot trends, and creative strategies, all in one place. We're going to be uncovering the transformative potential of cloud technology in driving business value and innovation. Through a keynote and 3 exciting sessions, we'll explore how the cloud-powered enterprise is reshaping industries, accelerating growth, and enhancing competitiveness. So settle in and get ready to learn. So for those of you I haven't met yet, my name is Scott Becker with Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator for this incredible EcoCast. I'm delighted to see so many of you here and sharing where you're logging in from. Looks like we've got people here from, St. Louis, Burleson, Texas, Leavenworth, Kansas, Jackson, Mississippi, Hawaii, Arkansas, Wisconsin, Massachusetts. Oh, and Brian is warning us about Friday the 13th to watch out for black cats and ladders and mirrors. This is great. So as always, it's not just awesome content that we're giving away today, but we have fantastic prizes too. We're going to be giving away 3 Amazon gift cards today worth $300 each. And now, as a reminder, you do need to be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prizes. And all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. If you're not sure what those are, you can find the full T's and C's in the handouts tab. Again, just click into that handout section of your audience console and scroll down to the bottom. You'll find it there. Oh, and because we want this to be an informative event for you, we've got another prize to encourage you to ask those questions that we know that you have. In each of our 3 vendor sessions, we'll be giving away a $50 Amazon gift card for the best question from the audience. The teams will review all the questions asked after the event, which means even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there's still a chance to win. Okay, let's get rolling. So I am absolutely delighted to bring on our keynote speaker, Mr. Howard M. Cohen. Howard goes by the title Senior Resultant. I like to call him my friend. I've known him for many years, where he's written for magazines and websites that I've edited. He's got a ton of industry experience, always has a great perspective on that intersection of technology and business, which is the nexus that we're exploring today. So Howard, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Scott. It's great to be here, and especially talking about this particular subject. Okay, let us talk about how we create business value using our cloud-powered enterprise. Those of you who have ever attended any of my sessions before know that I always like to start with a word of the day. And boy, was it a challenge to come up with a word for today. The word, of course, is value. One of my favorite words, because while everybody else is talking about speeds and feeds and bits and bytes, I really just want to talk about value, because value is what customers buy. And therefore, we're going to take a look not only at the value you can create for yourself in your cloud-powered enterprise, but also the value you can create for your clients in the cloud-powered enterprise. How much value? According to the folks at McKinsey, there's $3 trillion in value up for grabs for companies that go beyond adoption. And I think that it's an interesting phrase, but to me, it means that those who really go proactively into cloud and use cloud for what cloud can uniquely do. We're going to get into that. First, though, I'd like to review with you my formula for creating value in a cloud-powered enterprise. And that formula is DX leads to EX, leads to CX, leads to SX. What do I mean? First of all, it begins with your cloud-based digital transformation. A digital transformation doesn't have as much to do with the technology as it does to what people do with the technology. And when they're in the cloud, people can do much more. So a cloud-based digital transformation means that you are bringing much more capability to the people who work for you and work with you. So once you've done that, you should end up with people who are very happy with the experience, because now they can work far more productively, far more easily, with far more facility. And when you can be more productive and feel good about it, you're having an improved employee experience. Now, this is one of the most important things, because if there's one thing that employees produce when they have an improved experience, it's an improved customer experience. Happy employees tend to make happy customers. And when you make a customer happy, they tend to spend more. And of course, that will therefore make your stakeholders and your shareholders happy. So the question you ask at the end is, everybody happy? And if the answer is yes, you are clearly creating value for everybody. Now, here's one of those universal statements. There's only two ways in the universe to increase value. Only two ways. One of them is simply to increase revenue. If you're bringing in more revenue, boy, that's increasing value to you for sure. The other way to increase value is to decrease costs. So the less you're spending to create all that revenue, the better off we are. Let's talk first about how cloud and your cloud enterprise decreased costs. First of all, you have no cost of physical space when you move away from on-prem. Okay, so if you have on-prem equipment and then you're moving to cloud, you can get rid of that equipment, you can get rid of the space that it's in. That's fantastic. You're not going to be buying more equipment. So you have reduced or no capital investments. You're not buying stuff. And if you're not buying equipment, you're not going to have to power that equipment. So your energy costs drop. You're not going to have to cool the space in which that equipment operates, because that equipment's not there. So your cooling costs go down. You can't possibly maintain equipment you don't have. So your maintenance costs go down. You'll need far fewer people when you're working with cloud services rather than working with on-prem equipment. So you reduce your payroll pretty dramatically. And you don't have to worry about things like upgrades and patches and other things that give you headaches. All of that goes away when you eliminate on-prem. Cloud, of course, brings with it some very unique cost controls. For example, it's a subscription model. What does that mean? Well, for one thing, you add, remove, or change things simply by subscribing to them or ending a subscription. So that makes that easy. It's a consumption-based pricing model. So what that really means is you only pay for what you use. When things are sitting idle, you're not paying for them, which is great, because when you have your own data center, that stuff is going to sit there and it's going to be costing you even when you're not using it. Everything is updated automatically. Everything is patched automatically. And then there are some built-in advantages simply involved in cloud. For one thing, there's rapid resource allocation. Now, today, if you're on-prem and you say, you know what, we need more storage. You're going to go look at storage devices. You're going to shop for the one you want. You're going to compare and contrast them. Then you're going to issue a purchase order, process that purchase order, wait for the equipment to come in. You're going to configure it. You're going to deploy it, install it. That's a lot of work. In the cloud, you're going to request additional storage. That's it. So there, you're saving tons of time. And of course, time is money. You're going to be very flexible in the way you configure and provision things. You can have more cores. You can have more memory. You can have more storage simply by requesting it. So it's extremely flexible, and you can fine tune it. If you over provision, you bring it back a bit. You also have rapid development and prototyping. When you're starting new projects, you can very easily try new things, make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and improve upon what you're doing. This suggests that it's easy to scale as well. If you, let's say you acquire another company and now you suddenly have 1,000 new users, you simply provision 1,000 new users on your cloud service and you give them their credentials. Off we go. So scalability, both up and down and out, actually, are all very easy. Deployment. When you're deploying a user station, you're not going to be visiting that user station. You're simply going to ship it to them and give them their credentials, and they'll log in and get all the resources they could possibly need. Data analytics. Every cloud service has analytic services built into it that you can take advantage of in a lot of different ways to measure your cloud performance, to measure your people's performance, to measure your data and your data's performance, and many other things. One of the things I like best is that everybody gets the same level of access. There's no varying class levels in users. Everybody's connecting pretty much the same way. That removes a lot of complaints that we used to hear in the early days when some people were in-house and other people were in the field. It's becoming much more democratic out there, where we all have pretty much equal access. And also easy access to services. We're going to be talking about services in a moment. But when I say easy access to services, I'm really talking about services that you may never have thought of before. And they're actually very easily available to you. This suggests also that you can take advantage of the versatility of multi-cloud. Let's say that you're on type G, hyperscaler cloud service, and they don't have a service that you're looking for. You can't do it on that platform. You can very easily add one of the type A hyperscalers, because there are two of them, and use that service from their cloud. Multi-cloud makes it possible for you to mix and match as you need to, whenever you need to. Another example of the flexibility of cloud. All of this serves to reduce your inertia. Usually the thing that holds us back most from doing something new is the idea of how much it's going to take to get to the place where we can work on it. And that, again, is the buying of equipment and the setting it up and the configuring and the testing and the provisioning. And there's a lot to be done. Replace all of that with checking a box on a console. And all of a sudden, you're not so hesitant to go ahead and try something. Okay, so we've talked about ways in which we can reduce costs. Let's talk about the stuff everybody loves, increasing revenue. I ended up in decreasing costs on reduced inertia. Let's talk a little more about how reduced inertia improves your revenue generation. As I said, it eliminates the obstacles, gets things out of your way, and the fewer obstacles, the faster you can get to value. There's no purchasing of hardware and software. So you're not expending on hardware and software, which is great. There's no physical plant requirement. So you're leaner and meaner. All of that increases your revenue by speeding your innovation. Now, when you have an idea, it's very easy to start realizing the benefits of that idea. It's easy to just move ahead and try things and fail and then change and try again. You don't have to, you don't pay a big penalty for making a mistake. So it speeds innovation. We talked before about the rapid ability to design, develop, prototype, pilot, test, deploy. All of that being so much faster speeds your time to market. You can get to market with your new idea much faster than you ever could before. And that, of course, speeds your time to what everybody's looking for, more value. Speed time to market speeds time to value. Also, everybody talks about business agility, and it is an important way in which you're going to be increasing your revenue. For one thing, you've got improved systems resilience, meaning that if something goes wrong, there's something there to back it up, and that's not costing you because it's built into the cloud. There is a redundant data center behind the data center you're using. And so if something fails, you may not even feel the failure. In the old days, when the system failed, you stopped making money for as long as it took to get that system back up and running. No longer will you stop making money. And that will definitely increase your revenue generation. That built-in redundancy means that you have assurance of continuous performance without additional cost. And the fact that it's easy to make changes makes you much more nimble, much more agile. You can see that something's not working quite the way you want it, and very quickly make a change to see if you can improve the situation. If you do make a mistake, it's pretty easy to roll back the change you made. So you don't have to really fear that, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. No, if you're in for a penny, you're in for a penny. And you can roll back the change you made. This, again, removes obstacles, gets things out of your way. And that's one of the great things about cloud. It encourages innovation, as we said a moment ago. And improved innovation leads to increased competitiveness. And that's where the big payoff lies. If you are more competitive than your competitors, you win. You're generating more revenue than they can, and therefore you're overcoming your competition as you overcome yet another obstacle. Looking forward, and I always love to look forward, you can look forward to artificial intelligence benefiting you in tremendous new ways. But as we start to get there, I'll take you first back to the past where we started. Years ago, they introduced recommender engines. When it comes to revenue generation, recommender engines were amazing. They were a database of all of your customers and everything you knew about each customer, and all of your products and everything you knew about each of your products. You ran the two against each other, interpolated, and found which products would appeal most to which customers. So for each customer, you were automatically sending them marketing information about the products that the system says they would resonate with most. Once you're there, you just have your salespeople follow up, and guess what you get? Increased sales. That was a first application of AI in a sales setting to increase revenue. There are many more coming. Another feature that is so facilitated in the cloud is omni-channel communications. Your customers can contact you any way they want. They can call you, they can message you, they can text you, they can get on video and voice with you, many different ways to communicate with your customers or to have them communicate with you very flexibly. This also facilitates the gathering of information about your customers, because whichever way they connect, the cloud system can be gathering whatever it can find about them from the connection that it has with them. It can lead them back. It can lead your system back to their social media. It can lead them back to their purchases, to all kinds of history. This facilitates customer information management. And the more you know about a customer, the more you can sell to a customer, the more effectively you can sell to a customer. So again, cloud makes it easier for you to manage the information you gather about your customers. All of this makes you better at serving your customer and improving their experience. So customer experience enhancement is certainly an achievement that's facilitated by the cloud tremendously. And we can see how it moves us along the formula. Coming soon to a cloud near you, the agentic experience, where you'll be able to configure agents that will do things for you either autonomously by themselves on a periodic basis, or when something happens, or they can do it upon request. So things that you currently have people doing who could be doing better things, you can now have an agent do that. That's pretty new, really just introduced. Look forward to more information on agentic AI. All of this translates into dramatically improved responsiveness. So if you can be more responsive, your customers will like you better. Okay. This is how DX leads to EX, leads to CX, which leads to SX. So when everybody's happy, it's because we're creating more value for everybody. Let me leave you with just a little bit of advice as to how to approach building or enhancing your cloud-powered enterprise. First and foremost, align all of your cloud planning with your business goals, which means begin. Begin with the end in mind. Begin with the goals that you have in mind. Start there. Don't start with, oh, which cloud should we sign up for? No, start with, what do we want to accomplish here? Once you've determined what you want to accomplish, before you even begin planning, the next thing you want to do is learn what's possible. Because when you find out that you can do something, it often triggers ideas. And those ideas lead to greater growth faster and greater capacity, greater capability in what you're building. And when I say learning what's possible, I mean go out and learn about all the services available from the cloud providers. The servers and storage, that's just the tip of the iceberg. And I mean really just the tip. Here's a look at part of Amazon Web Services services. There are actually hundreds of them. These are some of the categories, if you will, of services. And under each of these, there are dozens of services. Azure, same thing. Tons and tons of services that you can access once you're on that service. And the one that looks busiest, Google. Google, you can see just how many services there are available to you from the Google Cloud. Then think multi-cloud. Think about all those lists of services. Some duplicate each other. Some are unique. Some are better than others. Some are not. But you can mix and match whichever services you want from whichever cloud when you go multi-cloud. So carefully consider a multi-cloud strategy based on the services that you find that would really benefit what you want to accomplish in your cloud enterprise. Finally, when you build your team, make sure that you have the following folks involved in the team. First and foremost, it's going to surprise you, a financial manager. Cloud has always been a financial strategy, a way to save money, a way to generate more income. So you need a financial manager making sure that they're on top of that. Are we doing what we said we would do? How much have we generated? How much value have we created? How are we spending? Are we spending as little as we can possibly be spending, as efficiently as we can possibly be spending it? You can't imagine how indispensable a financial manager is. And when cloud becomes a true component of your operations, it needs its own financial manager. You need a cloud shopper. Once you've found out what's possible, you need to keep on top of what's possible because it's constantly growing. There's constantly new services being introduced. There's constantly services being sunsetted. Services are being improved. So you may be using a service from one hyperscaler and then find out that another hyperscaler just dropped the price on that service or just made that service better. So it's a better choice for you than the one you're currently using. A cloud shopper will be able to find that information for you. You need a user liaison who is making sure that users are getting the experience you want them to get from the cloud. And on the other side, you need a cloud services manager who is interacting with the cloud services that you've contracted. Now, each of those folks may need team members after them as your use of cloud grows. But this is where you start. You start with this team. You look at all the services that are available, identify the ones that are really worthwhile for you, and then start to fold that into your innovative and ideation process as you build your cloud future. Hope that set the stage for today's session for you. If you have any questions, and we don't get to them today, my email address is right there, hmc@howardmcohen.com. You can subscribe to my free newsletter at techchannel.substack.com, or if you have time, scan that QR code. That'll take you there. And I hope to hear from you.
All
Scott,
right.
I'm all done.
Great keynote, Howard. Really, you did set the stage. Thank you very much. Hang on one second. I do have an audience question for you, but I wanted to put up this poll for everybody about what's your time frame for adding new or updating existing IT solutions at your company. So I'll just leave that in the background for everybody to answer. We do want to get to at least one question. So we had a question here from Nick Howard, who's asking, where will the AI agents make a big impact? Sorry, besides in customer service, so that agentic AI that you were talking about. Are there other areas other than customer service?
Everywhere. If you have not yet consumed Satya Nadella's keynote speech at the Microsoft Ignite conference, which was just like last week in Chicago, it is available online, and he really gives you a tour de force of agentic AI. He basically says that we have now entered the agentic world. Not that Microsoft engages in hyperbole, but he cited his favorite. I'll give you his favorite. His favorite was his Copilot for Outlook agent that scans his inbox constantly, and it presents to him the emails that it feels would be most interesting to him based on what he has found interesting in the past, what he basically tends to prefer, and who it's from, and his relationship with each person that it's from. And from those features and more, it says, okay, these are the ones that you should look at first. And he says that saves him unbelievable amounts of time. You can imagine how many emails he receives. But I mean, you think about that. That's not a go, no go kind of decision set. That thing is looking at him as a person, what he prefers, what he likes better, also what he finds more interesting or what might be more useful to him. I mean, those are all subjective shade of meaning decisions, and he has an agent doing that. So, I mean, use that as an example. They're projecting that you can really use agents to do an awful lot.
Yeah, no, great points, and I'm going to have to check that keynote out too. That sounds really interesting. Howard, can you hang on a second and just we've got a ton of questions that have come in for you, and maybe you could hang out and chat a bit and respond to some folks. All right. Well, Howard, as always, thanks for the keynote. Really appreciate your insights here. All right, so let's keep things rolling with our sessions. And now it is time for our first presentation in the Cloud-Powered Enterprise EcoCast. And this session comes from Akamai. And presenting for Akamai is Joseph Glover, Director of Field Compute Technology. Joseph, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you, Scott. Hope everyone can hear me.
Yep, you sound great. Take it away.
Awesome. Thanks again and welcome, everyone. Here's the statement. Today's powered or cloud-powered enterprise is indeed creating business value, and it's doing so using Akamai Connected Cloud. I took 2 seconds there to let that sink in because I'm going to defend that statement, so hang with me here. But before we get there, let's go back a few years, or many years. Back in 2009, when I started working with S3, just mentioning public cloud at an enterprise level was more or less a taboo. People will actually laugh at you in the room and tell you none of their workload is going to the cloud. But that said, today's businesses are spending millions on public cloud annually. See, there is a study called the Great Cloud Reset, a study conducted by Forrester, and the study states that more than 50% of global enterprises surveyed are using 3 public cloud providers. And of course, you see what Gartner is saying as far as forecast, $675 billion forecast in 2024 on cloud spend. And you can go see that report online today. There's a good graph for that. Now, with such an investment into cloud, it is crucial to examine how cloud creates business value, which is why we are having this conversation today. So, What does cloud, or why does cloud matter? That's a better question. Well, to answer that question, really it boils down into three key areas, and Howard touched on this already. Cloud does accelerate innovation and time to market. Cloud does offer unmatched scalability and cost effectiveness when managed well, and cloud ultimately enhance customer experience, which is why enterprise are invested in this. Now, I've seen this firsthand, well, in my 15 years of experience in the field, including a decade at AWS. Yes, I spent time there before joining Akamai, and I confirmed this, and I can tell you it does provide value. But here's the thing, not all cloud are created equal. You see, you're probably familiar with the three centralized cloud models that are available today, with hybrid cloud, or where hybrid cloud is positioned to give the best of both public and private cloud. Yet, they are white spaces. And this white spaces exist because of businesses' need for real-time data processing power and proximity computing. Well, with that though, enters this new evolution called distributed cloud model, which is an evolution of centralized cloud model, putting computing power in where data is being generated or consumed. These could be factory floors, hospital, media and entertainment, where everything is being streamed today, and so on. This exact fact, distributed cloud, is one of the many reasons that Akamai is now in the cloud computing space. And with that, let's talk a little bit about who Akamai is. I'm willing to bet that somebody listening to my voice today has experience booking a vacation rental with Airbnb, or somebody did watch the 2024 Olympic Games. Now, if you're that person and you're listening to me, please kindly drop a +1 in the chat box so I know I'm not talking to myself. All right. See, Akamai has been a key player in the internet ecosystem for the past 25 years. We began in the late 90s with our content delivery network designed to tackle the World Wide Web problem by making the internet faster and more reliable. We've done that. And we did that so well that IDC ranked Akamai as the global leader in edge delivery services over Fastly, Cloudflare, and even Amazon. They actually noted our strengths to be, keep this in mind, global coverage, scale, high performance, continuous innovation on AI and ML, and they mentioned extensive security portfolio. Well, why security? Well, let me go back one slide. Understanding that robust security is essential for a dependable content delivery business, we expanded into security soon after we were in the content delivery business. And then a few years ago, we took another significant leap into edge and cloud computing by the acquisition of a company called Linode, who has been in the cloud computing space since 2003. Why did we do this? Well, to address our customer cloud computing concern, particularly around cost, proximity computing, and performance efficiency. Now, by combining these three services, or these three core businesses, we've created the Akamai Connected Cloud, which is our massively distributed edge-to-cloud platform for cloud computing. Yes, we are in that space today, security, and content delivery. All of this is connected by the world's largest and most pervasive network of what we have today. So, if the question is, what exactly do we offer today for cloud computing? Well, here's a snapshot of that. And very quickly, you would notice that we don't have hundreds of services like Howard was showing the hyperscalers do today. No, we don't. We focus on simplicity and our core fundamental building blocks of cloud computing, which are compute, storage, networking, as well as a handful of managed services, including managed container and database. Our goal isn't to replace the hyperscalers, but to extend cloud computing to difficult to reach locations. Our core differentiators, again, are simplicity, cost effectiveness, and a massively distributed platform at scale. Remember the strength that IDC called out: global coverage, scale. Well, let me show you what that looks like. Today, we have over 1,000 petabytes of network capacity across 4,100 edge locations. These are the blue dots. Our core region, which we call sites, span 30 locations globally, and these are the orange dot. We have 10 distributed sites globally, bringing computing capability to add to reach locations like Santiago, Johannesburg, and Kuala Lumpur, with plans to add more. And the reason we're doing this is to allow us to better address data sovereignty concerns, enhance and ensure low latency, and provide better customer experience. All right, what have we discussed so far? I've discussed the enterprise cloud investment and how multi-cloud is a reality. 3 clouds is the majority now that enterprises are using. I've talked about how cloud matters because the North Star here is enhancing customer experience. I've introduced Akamai Connected Cloud and our strategic position in distributed cloud backed by our globally scaled and distributed network, security, and the analyst recognition, which I've showed you. Well, now let's explore how enterprises create business value actually using Akamai Connected Cloud through customer examples. All right. A leading global retailer, which I'm sure you guys know of this, but can't mention the name here, leverages Akamai's platform to optimize their web portal, resulting in a 15 to 30% reduction in LCP. Improve site responsiveness, which is key for online retail, and user experience, which is what you want as a business. And they do this by having faster dynamic page load and enhanced personalization through dynamic content positioning. All of these they have done while optimizing resource utilization and cost effectiveness. Now, this improvement directly addressed the retailer's need for optimal omnichannel experience. Howard talked about that, and leading them to an increased conversion rate and reducing cart abandonment while maintaining robust security, and at the same time streamlined integration with their existing infrastructure. Because we do promote multi-cloud, we actually advocate for that. Now, if you're interested in what the architecture looked like, what we actually helped them deploy was to implement a 10-node distributed database layer using HyperDB cluster on Akamai's platform. HyperDB is one of our technology partners. Now, for static pages, what we did was to use our Edge Pop, which is a no-brainer, our CDN. And for dynamic pages, what we used was our edge computing that I've been talking about, the distributed cloud, and then through Edge Worker, which is a function as a service for request identification and retrieval of early hint data asynchronously from the distributed layer. Let's look at a different example. All right, this is a global media measurement and analytics company providing marketing data and analytics to enterprises, media, and advertising agency. They came to us with a business need of meeting available SLAs for their services. And as you may already know, programmatic ad buying process is latency sensitive. Now, what they also wanted was to ensure that the application was responsive, no-brainer. They want to get to good user experience. They want to reduce costs, and they want to manage complexity, which makes sense also as the ad industry operates on very thin margins. Now, the business result of using us and a system integrator was a 40% reduction in cloud cost, improving SLA compliance and conversion rate, as well as efficient handling of their large traffic volume. The architecture we actually used for this was to implement a distributed cloud infrastructure for programmatic ad buying by deploying ad service cluster close to users in multiple locations. Then we established a well-connected, diverse failover region for redundancy, and we utilize localized instance to sync ad bid, reducing the traffic back to the centralized infrastructure, while ultimately this was the big cost saver because egress costs was so reduced, they don't have to go back to centralized. They can process data locally. All right, let's look at one more example. Now, this one is quite unique because this one is dear to me, and you will understand me in a sec. You see, we as Akamai ourselves initially adopted in public cloud, the hyperscalers, before we got into the cloud business to accelerate our time to market and drive revenue growth. However, we soon realized that some mission critical application relying on the hyperscalers or third-party cloud services were driving cost up. Now, to address this, Akamai launched Project Series, which is a strategic initiative to repatriate applications back to our own distributed cloud, reducing our dependency on the hyperscaler and cost, kind of your drink your own champagne approach. After we got our cloud, we started this over 2 years ago. Now, this approach delivered 40% reduction in cost spent in our first year of moving applications back to our own cloud. And we are projected, and have met this year, 70% cost savings. And we see that going on beyond year 2. Now, it wasn't just cost savings for us. We also achieved an 80% reduction in our data pipeline latency for some of our security monitoring services and improve our overall query performance by 40%. The question is, though, how did we do this? Well, we actually went through a 5-step process, which we've really documented, and I'm just going to highlight it here. First of all, for a large-scale initiative such as Project Series, you do need an executive sponsor. And for us, our CEO provided a broad level oversight, ensuring strategic alignment and support for key decisions. Now, once you have executive alignment, the next step is to set clear business goals with how we talked about. Start from the business, understand what you want to accomplish, which in our case was to optimize costs and drive transformation. Next is to analyze holistically who is using cloud across sales, marketing, product. Who is using cloud? Understand the priority before you now start thinking about mobilizing your migration. Now I'm going to skip to number 4 real quickly because that was a big key. We had to re-architect our application to be cloud agnostic. That way we can be flexible enough to implement cloud portability across multiple clouds if we need to. So we move projects back to our cloud, and if we need to move to a different cloud because it makes sense, we can do that. And such re-architecture will mean using cloud native principles like microservices, containerization, and so forth. Anyway, I'll leave this here because what we've done is we've actually put together a white paper for this, and you can download this white paper from the resource tab today if you want to learn more information about how we did this. Also, to learn more about Akamai Connected Cloud, or to request a free cloud cost estimate, or to even explore Akamai further, feel free to scan the QR code on your screen today and follow the instruction. An actual person, individual, not an agent, will reach out to you. And like I said, if you're interested in the project series and 5 steps of how to manage costs, you can download that white paper from our resource, from the resource tab in the presentation. The QR code is also available for your easy access in the resource tab. That will be all I have today. Thank you for listening. And we at Akamai are looking forward to connecting with you soon. Thank you.
All right. Well, Joseph, great overview and really nice customer examples. We'll leave this slide up here for just a second before we go into the poll, just so everybody can grab that QR code if they want on the free cloud cost assessment. And Joseph, as you mentioned, the white paper is in the resources section there as well about Akamai drinking its own champagne here. And Joseph, we do have some questions for you here. One is they're wondering, could you elaborate on how organizations can measure ROI effectively to ensure these investments translate into tangible business value?
Right. And I think the last word you said there was measure ROI to translate to tangible business value.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is key right there, because you start with a tangible business value before you go into the cloud. And then when you go into the cloud, after you set your business objective and specific reasons why you want to go into the cloud, that could be increase operational efficiency, that could be reduced time to market, that could be reduced cost. Then you base metrics towards those goals. That way you can measure those metrics. So for example, if you want to reduce cost, well, then it makes sense to have a cost, total cost of ownership, or a cost estimate, or a benchmark, if you want to call it that, prior to going to the cloud. And then when you go do a POC in the cloud, see if the benchmark that you met on premise supersedes what is on premise. The benchmark that you do on cloud is better than on premise. If the cost of running the same application in the cloud is less than on premise, then it makes sense for you to then move. Or if you're going multi-cloud from one cloud to the other, it's the same thing. Do a benchmark of running the exact application on cloud A. It costs X amount of dollars. Do the same thing in cloud B. See if it costs X amount of dollars. I mean, yes, the difference here is going to cost you time, but at least you have a metric driven decision and not just go because the boss what everybody say goes to cloud A, so we go to cloud A. Kind of makes sense?
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you. And I'm going to move us into the poll question here. Just what additional information would you like about the Akamai solution? We'll just leave that up for a minute for everybody while we go into some more questions here. Joseph, this next one, they're wondering, what are the most common challenges businesses face when adopting distributed cloud architectures, and how can they overcome them?
When I was putting this together, I remembered that last minute I did not put challenges here. There are challenges indeed, and thank you for calling that out wherever I asked that question. There are indeed challenges. One of them is going to be the complexity in architecture design when you are adopting a multi-cloud approach, or a distributed cloud approach. The reason is because you kind of have to think a little differently. One of the customer examples I used was saying the customer itself had to do localized processing instead of going all the way back to a centralized location, which could be on-prem, which could be another public cloud to do their processing. The reason that saved cost for the customer was because that egress charge that you're paying, data transfer charge to move data out of the cloud, adds up very quickly. So you re-architect your environment to do the localized processing, aggregate what you need, and then you can send back to the centralized location. So the big deal there is you need to think architecturally a little different. And we can help with that, which is why I said scan the QR code, get in touch with us, and we can have that conversation, understanding your unique need and seeing how that can help. Lastly, let me mention one more thing. With localized processing also comes compliance, especially when you're in Europe. So GDPR, for example, or CCPA. If you need to meet those stringent compliance, then localized processing makes more sense. If your application is latency sensitive, localized processing makes more sense. But with all that in mind, some kind of re-architecting needs to happen to reduce the complexity of who is building your environment.
Okay, gotcha. I'm going to close down the poll and just, Joseph, you mentioned the QR code. I just wanted to put that back up here for anybody who didn't have their phone out in time when we had it up there before. If you do want to get that free cloud cost assessment, I think we've got time for one more question here. The question is, you mentioned a 5-step process for cloud optimization. Could you provide specific examples of how Akamai's connected cloud has helped businesses reduce cloud costs or eliminate vendor lock-in?
One specific example. All right. Um, eh, there is this terminology in the industry called the hub and spoke model. Okay. So think here with me, hub, where it's this like a airplane. Yeah, there you go. So you're at the airport is the hub, and then planes are flying up to different cities, going into different direction. What we are seeing is, because one of our value proposition is to keep things simple and cost effective. For example, the price of egress that we charge half a cent, where other cloud providers and hyperscalers start from about 5 or 6 cents, and it can go upward north of that. Why do I bring that up? What I've been seeing, especially customers like in the ad industry, is they use us as the hub now. That way they can pay less as it relates to the egress costs, which helps save money. That way, instead of you paying all that traffic going all over the world from the hyperscaler being the hub, they actually connect, and you can do that to private connection or private link to our cloud, and then use us as the hub, use us as the front end for the most part to actually serve their traffic all over the world. And it's been a great cost savers for customers. That's one. I don't know if I have enough time to go into another one, because I would have loved to talk about latency, but the question goes back to you, Scott, if there's time.
Yeah, we probably got a minute if you do want to talk about some latency. Sure.
Okay. So another thing is how, because of our global coverage, because of our network capacity and throughput, companies that are in the media industry and entertainment industry, luxury, travel and travel and luxury, gaming, those guys have been coming to us to put their application on our cloud. Why? Because we can give them that capacity that I talked about, over 1,000 petabytes of capacity, and reduce latency, especially in the AV pipeline, for example. You don't need a different network to do this. You can actually have the same network, which you're doing your packaging, your transcoding, also serve your traffic. And we have partners that are coming in and working with us to serve their customer. Bitmoving being one of those partners that are coming in and saying, wow, you guys are doing such a great job with the reduced latency, especially when you're doing live broadcast. Anybody watch the Netflix Tyson fight the other time? All right, okay. You know where I'm going with that. But so we can reduce those latency, and that is really helping change the industry. As you know, it's all about user experience. It's all about social media. It's all about streaming. So we see customers in those industries coming to us, and that is now extending into finance and into healthcare and life sciences. And we see them coming to us to take advantage of the milliseconds latency that we provide.
All right. Well, Joseph, really appreciate your time today. This has been a really enlightening discussion. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. And now it's time for our first prize drawing of the day. The winner of the first $300 Amazon gift card today is Mitch Nicholas from Washington, D.C. So congratulations to Mitch. We'll be in touch about claiming your prize. And now it's time for our next presentation in the EcoCast. And this session comes from SAP Lean IX. And presenting for SAP Lean IX is Jason Taylor, Principal Enterprise Architect. So I'm going to turn things over to Jason.
Hi, I'm Jason Taylor, Principal Enterprise Architect with SAP LeanIX. I'm thrilled to be here with you to talk about the transformative potential of cloud technology in driving business value and innovation. We'll begin by framing the transformation agenda in building an agile, resilient, and sustainable enterprise. Then we'll cover some of the hurdles organizations must overcome to transform. We'll dig into the power of cloud-based technologies, and then we'll close out with how SAP can help you on your journey, followed by some Q&A. So let's start. Many organizations today aspire to maximize business value and enable frictionless innovation. To achieve this end, they look to become agile, sustainable, and resilient. But this journey requires transformation. Whether large enterprise-wide shifts or smaller incremental gains, change is inevitable for organizations to thrive in today's constantly evolving reality. Becoming agile means responding to changing market trends, adapting to new business models, quickly adapting while operating through M&A, adopting new technologies like AI, cloud ERP, automation, etc. Becoming resilient means being able to respond proactively to challenges in supply chains and having the capacity and the capabilities to address unexpected disruptions, for example, the pandemic or regional wars. And being sustainable means reaching your ESG goals and operating with less waste. Transformation, even if not business-wide, can be hard and disruptive, and there are several hurdles to overcome. Uncertainty. You may have a lack of transparency mixed with layers of complexity. You may have no visibility into the existing process and application landscape, or no idea where the value potential is. You may be unaware of the risks in changing something, or have no distinguishable starting point because of all the complexity. Scarcity. Everything is finite. Capacity, time, resources, etc. are finite. Skills, including the knowledge that may have left the business, are finite. Insights, data, roles, and responsibilities are finite. And your budget, running the business versus innovation, is almost always finite. Inconsistency. Your business and IT stakeholders want and need different things. You may have no alignment or collaboration between business and IT. They speak different languages and cover different disciplines. And you may struggle to get stakeholder and management buy-in. Adaptability. The adoption of new technology is too slow and are limited. Most digital transformation initiatives will not meet their goals because people aren't using the tools they have access to, or they're not using them to their full potential. This digital adoption gap is a change management problem and often overlooked in transformation initiatives. This either leads to decision paralysis or with decisions made by gut instinct rather than with meaningful insights, and as an outcome can cost delays in progress, more expense, or possibly a failed transformation. Woven into the fabric of these challenges for many organizations is the additional burden of on-premise software, which tends to be very sticky within an organization, change at a slower pace, and can further hinder innovation and business agility. Monolithic solutions drive complexity that increase the impact and risk exposure of change. Dated software lacks critical fixes and enhancements that may be available. New features and innovations may not be available in your environment. The recent trend of AI features all over the place are a great example here. Increased cyber risk as vulnerabilities may not be remediated and or patched. Environments tend to grow incrementally over time and be more handcrafted and thus very fragile to change. Usually only a small number of tenured resources know all facets of your landscape and its idiosyncrasies. And of course, you're generally paying for peak capacity and manage usage to that limit. So what do we do? The answer, of course, is to embrace the cloud. Now, I know there are skeptics out there that will say, the cloud is just servers sitting in someone else's building, or I've seen industry peers fail with lift and shift cloud projects, or I hear stories of repatriation where organizations are moving away from the cloud. And it is true that the cloud is not a magic wand and does require some changes in thinking and approach to get right. But for an organization looking to maximally innovate and be truly business agile, the journey is worth it. Let's talk about some of the key benefits of a cloud-first strategy. Whether you're using SaaS offerings or leveraging cloud-based platforms and services to build solutions, there are clear benefits to cloud adoption. Pay-as-you-use models tie costs directly with consumption to better optimize spend, in addition to trading CapEx for OpEx. Most cloud-native offerings have scalability built into the architecture, so if you need to scale data or compute resources, you can do so with minimal effort. The technology under the covers is more modern and built with automation in mind, so tearing down and spinning up environments is fast and easy, as is using rules and workflow-based components which enable flexibility. You can also benefit from techniques like canary releases or feature flagged implementations to see things work in production with a smaller impact profile. New innovations are easier to pilot and adopt as standard integration patterns are mature and easier to implement. Providing capability-oriented and composable services leads to a well-architected solution that's more robust and adaptable. Many SaaS cloud offerings sit well within domain boundaries like CRM, HR, and ERP, making it easier to avoid monolithic constructs in the end. Intense competition across hyperscalers and SaaS offerings brings a wide variety of solutions to the marketplace. And finally, you can outsource responsibilities that are not core to your business through managed services. It's no wonder that cloud technologies have allowed us to innovate and scale at levels that many never thought imaginable. Here's a staggering chart emphasizing the enormous power of the cloud at the intersection of speed and innovation. ChatGPT reached 100 million users in just 2 months from launch, a feat that never would have been possible without cloud technologies. Especially when you consider not only the amount of computing power and data that was required to train and test its underlying large language model, but also the cloud's ability to make consuming ChatGPT's APIs easily available and accessible to so many users. The core benefits that cloud technologies provide then directly enable businesses to drive value and innovation. This great CIO article outlines 4 strategic cloud success stories across varying industries. McDermott, an oil rig constructor that is using cloud-based data and analytics services to enable more efficient and sustainable building of rigs and unlock new business opportunities. Liberty Mutual, a global insurer that's using cloud-based analytics and real-time insights and predictions to streamline claims processing. Koch Industries, a global conglomerate that uses hybrid and multi-cloud networking to accelerate M&A integrations. And finally, National Grid, a massive energy company using cloud-based AI and machine learning to drive better routing and investment decisions. Now, I'll share with you one of my favorite Sun Tzu quotes. In warfare, there are no constant conditions. He who can modify his tactics in relations to his opponent will succeed and win. And this is exactly what a cloud-first strategy can do for organizations. Transform the company to unlock the ability to innovate and drive business value by delivering business agility. But we know that transformations are hard. According to this McKinsey study, 70% of transformations fail due to complexity and lack of visibility. So what makes them so challenging? They highlighted 3 themes common to failed efforts. First, teams don't do the planning and archaeology necessary. This always fascinates me as transformations are risky, costly, highly visible, disruptive, and hugely beneficial to the organization, yet this still happens. The strong desire to jump in and start moving prevents organizations from wrapping their arms around their current state well enough to understand the big rocks in their transformation. Second, inaccurate end-to-end oversight. People see packaged presentations, steering committees, PMOs, layers of information synthesis, and lose touch with reality. I've seen this firsthand where executives get lulled into a false sense of progress and security by massaged statuses that don't reflect real progress. And of course, once pieces of the transformation are in production, there needs to be a focus on real KPIs and adoption metrics to ensure expected benefits are being realized by the business. Missed constraints and risks. Do we have the skills, the time, the resources, the knowledge, the focus, the executive alignment? Have we mitigated the key risks, vendors, competing projects, budget, impacts of missing a deadline? And have we thought through the constraints, those key resources, potentially immovable deadlines, the impact of change both inside and out? This is where business transformation from SAP steps in to help. We bring together the key dimensions necessary for successful business transformation in a consolidated, streamlined approach. A core focus on the processes, applications, people, and data is what drives transformation, taking you from business strategy to execution. It's important to have the right solutions that connect across these dimensions and deliver meaningful insights to power change. It's not just the tooling that makes this possible, but also the end-to-end methodology and structure to guide you every step of the way. Best practice content, for example, value accelerators and reference architecture from SAP. Automation that helps to accelerate workflows and time to value. Integration capabilities that pull this all together with further touch points constantly being investigated. And of course, powerful business AI underpinning the value acceleration throughout the journey. Only SAP brings this all together, including its services, partner ecosystem, and experts, and makes it possible to get fast time to insight as you form your strategy and fast time to adaptation as you execute against it. Here's a brief overview of how our business transformation solutions can bring your project to life. SAP Signavio for your business process transformation, SAP LeanIX for your IT and enterprise architecture, and WalkMe to ensure the adoption of your changes, maximizing the value by getting your organization to live it. You always need to start with answering the most relevant question for all your transformation projects. What is my plan? What is my business strategy behind it? Is it an ERP transformation? Is it about cost management, changing your business model, reacting to changing market conditions, etc.? Once the strategy is decided and you have buy-in, you can start. You must discover and analyze where you at the moment and understand how your organization is doing. It's essential to get on top of your as-is situation. That includes process analysis and mining, business capability mapping, as-is architecture analysis, and analytics on your tech stack usage. Then you must design and think about how you want to work in the future. Target state process design and architecture design, roadmap planning, KPI setting, and workflow benchmarks. Then you need to decide how you want the organization to be set up to support the future operating model, process change and its rollout, governing and tracking architecture change, documenting new application implementations, building workflow accelerators, and guiding adoption. Once that's done, you must ensure an agile and smooth implementation, followed by driving sustainable operations of the changes you've implemented. Ensuring the value is being realized, the architecture continuously improves, and users are contextually guided as they operate in the new transformed environment. Only with business transformation from SAP do you get a holistic offering that connects across your people, process, and application dimensions, making the most of the data within your organization and delivering meaningful insights every step of the way. Thank you. It was my pleasure to be here with you today. And now I'll open it up to a few questions. The first question is, my organization is not an SAP shop. Does this business transformation suite apply to us? Absolutely. Our BTM suite is a collection of best-of-breed solutions that are made to streamline and de-risk transformations across SAP and non-SAP environments. There are certain extra integrations and accelerators that we can make available for SAP scenarios, but our focus is the entire transformation space and not just the SAP subset. The next question is, my legal risk and compliance partners are uneasy with moving to public cloud constructs. Do you have any advice for me? I've seen many organizations struggle with this, but I think the solution is to educate these partners and bring them along for the journey. In many cases, well-architected cloud solutions can be more secure than their on-premise predecessors that were relying on strong perimeter security but little else. With modern, least privileged, zero-trust cloud configurations, you can achieve fine-grained security models and leverage automation to keep everything up to date and encrypted end-to-end. The next question is, doesn't the proliferation of cloud technologies and smaller composable services make the landscape more complex? Well, it is true that it may seem easier to manage a single monolith as opposed to 100 smaller applications or microservices. But this is where I'd say that taking a data-driven approach to enterprise architecture is table stakes nowadays. Understanding how your landscape is and is not serving your business well, and being able to make fast, accurate decisions about how to involve that landscape to drive more value for your business requires real-time comprehensive insight. It's hard to deliver business agility if you can't operate in an agile fashion internally. And the last question that we'll have time for today, if you could give one takeaway to an organization about to embark on a cloud transformation, what would it be? Well, that's a great question. I would say put your enterprise architecture team in the driver's seat. If you don't have an EA team, then start the practice now. Regardless of the size and scale of your transformation, you want to have a holistic view of your ecosystem, including what teams use which applications, which business capabilities those applications support, what business processes are relying on them, what the integration points are, where the data flows are, etc. And you want to have an architecture vision and roadmap that is informed by that insight. An EA team can help ensure business strategy and IT strategy alignment and chart a successful path for the future. So thanks again, and feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or via email, and have a great day.
All right, and we do have a poll question for you. We appreciate your feedback on additional resources that you'd like to see from SAP LeanIX. Looks like we had a few more questions that we can't get to right here, but we will pass those along to Jason Taylor and the SAP LeanIX team, so hopefully they can get back to you after the event. I'd also like to remind everybody about the handouts. The PDF in the handout section from SAP is the deck from today, which includes Jason's contact info there. So, if you did have other questions, you could reach him through there as well. Okay, thanks to everybody who's responded already to the poll. We do appreciate your feedback, and I'll just leave it up here for a few more moments, and then we'll move on to our next presentation. And leaving the poll up, let's do our next prize drawing. So the winner of the $300 Amazon gift card, this is our second $300 Amazon gift card of the day. And the winner of this one is Cameron Moore from Nebraska. So congratulations to Cameron. We'll be in touch about claiming your prize. Okay, once again, thanks to everybody who filled out the poll. We are going to move on to our next and final presentation in the EcoCast on the cloud-powered enterprise. This session comes from Rubrik, and presenting for Rubrik is Philip Verlooy, who's Field CTO. So I'm going to turn things over to Philip.
Also, on behalf of Rubrik, thank you for attending this event and spending some time with us going over protecting and securing your cloud environments. I'm Philip Verlooy, Field CTO here at Rubrik X. At Rubrik, our mission is to secure the world's data, and an ever-increasing part of that world is public cloud environments. So that's what I want to focus the majority of the session on today. Before we talk about cloud, though, let's start with this concept of cyber resilience. Cyber resilience is sort of a different mindset from focusing purely on prevention of cyber attacks to assuming the worst will happen at some point and incorporating that idea into your risk and recovery planning. Our assumption here is that cyber attacks are inevitable. People at some point will still click on the wrong things they will get through email or just find on the open web. All software, of course, has bugs, and some of these bugs are security vulnerabilities that can lead to incidents and breaches. Just think about how many times you have to update your iOS and Android apps on your phone, for example. And all software systems, they tend to break, and they tend to break all of the time, even though it's largely invisible for us as end users. A lot of these things tend to go awry and are also related to security gaps in those systems. So the question used to be not if, but when you were going to be breached or have a cyber incident in your organization. Today, the realization is really getting to not when are you going to get breached, but how many times will you potentially be a victim of this. So this assume breach mindset will potentially also remove some mental roadblocks and allow you to focus on bouncing back successfully and bouncing back better, building up your, let's say, cybersecurity and cyber resiliency capabilities to safeguard your organization and to continue to run your business on a day-to-day basis. Now, these changing environments, the way that we build our architectures, think about, going from largely on-prem to adopting hybrid cloud to, now multi-cloud and bringing in a lot of SaaS applications, is also leading to changing behaviors from a malicious actor perspective. These stats, they come from the latest IBM X-Force Threat Intelligence Index for 2024. Where they noticed a 71% year-on-year increase in cyber attacks using stolen or compromised credentials. So this is fast becoming the biggest attack factor, especially when it comes to cloud environments, is these malicious actors. They're not sort of hacking into your system, they're not breaking in, they're effectively logging in using valid credentials, which becomes very difficult for existing security tools to evaluate at that point, and that's why they're sort of largely successful. About 32% of cyber incidents today involve some sort of data theft or data leakage event as well. So if you combine that with regulatory pressure around reporting towards regulators and so on what type of data was impacted, what type of potentially personal information you lost from your customers, you can see that this is increasing the pressure quite a bit on a lot of organizations. And then 84% of critical infrastructure incidents took place where the initial access factor could have been mitigated by implementing things like least privilege control on identities, for example. Again, if we look at sort of the technical part of least resistance for these malicious actors or these threat actors, it's quite clear that instead of going after these perimeter controls, or maybe even taking a more esoteric part and going after your IoT devices, it's easier for them to either use some sort of phishing campaign. They would still need to, to some extent, compromise the device of that user that clicks on that phishing link. Whereas the easiest part right now would be to use credentials. The way that they get those credentials can be fairly easy. Either you find credentials, posted on things like, a GitHub repository or a Pastebin or something like that, especially when it comes to things like API keys and so on. But there's, of course, people who offer you those valid credentials on, avenues like Telegram and others. One example would be Redline Stealer, very successful malware, easily available, able to not only harvest things like saved credentials, but also active cookies, making it fairly straightforward for these malicious actors to not only get in, but to maybe even subvert things like multi-factor authentication and so on. So once they have this valid account, this compromised account, they will start to laterally move around in your environment, get to a more privileged account with more permissions, and that's typically how they will get to your data. They will either steal your data or they will encrypt your data, and in a lot of the cases, if not the majority of the cases today, we see it's actually even a combination of both. So they have two shots at getting you to pay the ransom and release the data back to you. Now, if you think about data that's been encrypted in the cloud or even on-prem, once you have a decryption key, or maybe you have a nice immutable backup solution, you can get your data back quite easily. But data that has been stolen, that tends to be gone forever, right? So if the genie is out of the bottle, you can't get it back in, and you have to trust that malicious actor that if you pay the ransom, they will actually not leak your data on the dark web. And we've seen enough evidence now that these people are very scrupulous, and some of them will just leak your data in any case. So the goal is to figure out a way to minimize the potential impact of a data exfiltration while still assuming that it can happen. So that's nicely fitting into our sort of cyber resilience assume breach mindset, let's say. Now, if you think about data growth, so where is the majority of the new data being created? That's, of course, in the cloud and in SaaS applications. So these figures are from our previous Rubrik Zero Labs report, which you can freely get from the Rubrik website as well. But what we saw there is that 20% of the new data is created on premises, but that's far outpaced by the cloud and SaaS. So 73% of new data is created in the public cloud and 145% in SaaS applications. The way to think about that is, I think, if you look at where are people experimenting, where is innovation happening, that's typically in the cloud or from a SaaS sort of perspective. So those data locations, they become the most interesting attack surface for malicious actors. They tend to dig where there's the most chance to hit gold, and the most chance to hit gold these days is in the cloud and in SaaS, as it turns out. Moving to the cloud also brings with it some security blind spots, especially if you think about using existing security tools and sort of lifting and shifting them into the cloud together with your workloads. There's certain things those tools aren't sort of prepared for. So our latest Rubrik Zero Labs pointed out that 70% of all data in a typical cloud instance is actually object storage. So that's vastly different from on-prem environments, where it will be mostly file and block based storage. But of that data, more than 25% of all object stores, they do contain data covered by regulatory or legal requirements. So, PII information or HIPAA type information, PCI information from a financial perspective, and so on. And that type of data is much more valuable to an attacker because if they know that if they have that type of information and they threaten to leak it, you're much more likely to pay a ransom because it's so much more impactful for you as an organization as well. And then looking at public cloud and SaaS, they are the leading attack surfaces today. Again, that's where that type of data can be exfiltrated. So that's going to be the first target for these malicious actors. And similarly to how it has always been in security, but especially true for multi-cloud now, you cannot secure what you cannot see. So getting visibility on those data assets would be step one. So all of that leads to some cloudy prospects, I would say. The weather is not super clear in the cloud, so there's more and more criminals, more and more malicious users. Again, they're targeting where sort of the biggest chance of success lies. We've seen a lot of examples in the public now around ransomware and ransomware payments and the monetary impact not only the cleanup operation has, but also things like impact on your organization at large and how you deal with that. Cloud environments, of course, are creating a larger and larger attack surface. There's more exposure, so you have more things to defend now, especially if you go multi-cloud and SaaS. All of these things have their own unique entry paths and services that you now have to understand and protect. And maybe your IT staff isn't prepared for that, but also maybe your existing tooling isn't really prepared for that either. Mentioned before as well, but there's more and more regulatory pressure, especially things like DORA, for example, in finance. And then if you happen to be based in Europe, we are now dealing with the NIS2 regulation, where not only these fines are getting quite substantial, but they also include, let's say, holding company leadership and holding board members to a certain cybersecurity standards, and if they sort of can't adhere to those standards, they will be held liable in some of these cases potentially. Then, if you think about adopting cloud, adopting multi-cloud, there's always the chance of performing some misconfiguration leading to, for example, publicly exposed cloud storage and cloud buckets and so on. But even the cloud provider itself isn't free of those things, right? There was a recent example where Google Cloud wiped out an entire customer environment, including their HA setup and including their Google-based backup, so they had to rely on a third-party backup vendor to get their data back. These things, they happen sometimes, so we sort of have to prepare for that. In terms of insiders, there's always going to be people who leave your organization. There's always going to be disgruntled employees to some extent, and they might take some of that sensitive information with them. There's even malicious actors now targeting some of these insiders to give them an easy path to the inside and sort of help them get to their ultimate goal, which is to get to your data. And then finally, I would say there's more and more nation states or more and more APTs active as well. An interesting one I saw from a couple of weeks ago was this joint statement from the NSA and the Five Eyes, saying that Russian cyber spies are also adapting their techniques from going from on-prem targets to more and more cloud-hosted environments. Again, that's where the chances of success are highest, unfortunately. So how do we address this? If you think about this very high-level, let's say, logical attack path or kill chain, the idea is we can focus on preventing a breach from happening, but we also need to take into account that it will still happen. Like incidents will still happen. So the ultimate goal is how do we make sure that an incident, i.e. maybe somebody gets credentials, is able to log into your environment, doesn't turn into a breach. And if it does turn into a breach, how do we minimize the impact of that breach? So the way that we look at it from a Rubrik perspective is we work on, first of all, production data at rest, meaning the data does not have to be managed through Rubrik. It's just sitting in your public clouds. It's sitting in your SaaS environments. And that is where we will employ our data security posture management technologies. So we look at things like data hygiene, minimizing the amount of data that you have, especially when it comes to sensitive data. So think about having copies of data spread around your environment, typically for dev test purposes. Some of those data assets contain sensitive information, so they're just as valuable to a malicious user as non-copies of data as actual production data. So if that data isn't used actively, maybe you haven't touched it for a long period of time, why is it still there? So why are you paying the cloud provider to store it? And why are you sort of exposing that sensitive data to a potential breach? So finding that access data, that road data, let's say, and getting rid of it, either by actually deleting it or at least removing access to it, can go a long way in making sure the incidents don't turn into breaches. Then we have to implement the least privilege access principle. So the idea is, do we understand how identities are linked to data exposure on the back end, and can we then implement right sizing for those identities instead of overexposing and just giving full access permissions on anything? Can we make sure that we only provide credentials with the access that they need to actually perform their day-to-day operations? And if they need more access at a certain point in time, we provide just-in-time sort of access and extend those credentials. So getting visibility on what that looks like will help you greatly in right-sizing these permissions and these privileges. Then the third thing that we look at is assessing data posture. So each and every cloud has different security capabilities. You can, turn on encryption, you can turn on logging for an S3 bucket in AWS, for cloud storage in GCP, and so on. But validating that you've actually implemented this across the board becomes troublesome. So the idea here is that we'll allow you to build policies that determine the baseline of security that you expect from your multi-cloud. And then Rubrik DSPM will go out and validate that that posture is still set and help you tweak that in if needed. Then understanding the blast radius of accounts. So if people get access to a higher privileged account, what data would they be able to target, for example, and making sure we minimize that. And then finally, detecting anomalous behavior. So the whole idea of understanding how data is being used in your environment, and then seeing these outliers, anomalous activity in your environment, somebody downloading sensitive data to their laptop for the first time ever, somebody accessing, sensitive information from a strange location around the world where you have no branch offices, for example, things like that we can monitor for and then help you implement the correct controls. So again, all of that happens before you have a copy of the data that's associated with Rubrik. So that's purely working on data at rest. And then, of course, we still have this concept of, well, what if the worst happens? What if my data gets destroyed or encrypted and I need to get back into production as quickly as possible? That's where our backup data stored in an immutable fashion, i.e. the Rubrik Security Cloud capabilities through Rubrik Cloud Native Protection come in. So we'll help you pinpoint the latest and greatest, let's say, safe copy of the data that wasn't impacted by any malware, help you restore it as quickly as possible, understand the impact in your environment. And if you do not want to sort of do this on your own, we do have the Rubrik ransomware recovery team to help you with that. Again, our assumption here is that stress might be high when you're going through an active ransomware recovery scenario. And if you can rely on this great bunch of people who have done it multiple times for customers all around the world and have sort of a standard process, they will guide you through that. That will help a lot. Now, all of these solutions aren't point products that you have to individually implement. They're actually integrated nicely into what we call the Rubrik Security Cloud. So depending on your specific use case, if it's cloud data protection or if it's more data security posture management, they all come together in the Rubrik Security Cloud and can be consumed as a SaaS product from our Security Cloud services. It all starts, I would say, with this difference in philosophy when we think about how do we implement this and how do we have our customers consume this. So there's a difference in philosophy in that we want to make this extremely simple. The way that you operate is very centralized. You work on the basis of what we call an SLA domain or an SLA policy, and you can apply that policy across the multi-cloud and across SaaS and even on-prem environments. Whereas if you look at individual cloud providers, they typically do not think in this solution manner. They really offer you building blocks to build something yourself. And even if you think about a single cloud provider, that single backup solution, for example, that they will offer you is not valid across their entire estate either. So there's a lot of, let's say, things that you sort of have to manually connect together and manually figure out what is the best way forward here. So at a high level, why is this so difficult from a cloud perspective to secure and recover data? So first thing, of course, is lack of visibility and control of your growing data environment, which is a direct result of adopting more and more cloud services, of course. So you have PaaS, SaaS services. Some of these things have sensitive data in them. Some of that data is important from a regulatory requirement. You have your internal teams, let's say, with their internal tools. Some of them aren't really fit for purpose when it comes to cloud, but all of them have different expectations and different requirements when it comes to these environments as well. So then it becomes really difficult to uniformly understand if something happens in your environment, let's say a ransomware attack, can we even recover from a ransomware across all of these environments? And can we actually prove that out? Like, how do we make sure that this is effective when that time inevitably happens in our environment? So even with cloud native backup tools, it's going to be challenging to get a baseline copy of a backup across all of your services. It's operationally quite complex, and especially when it comes to things like visibility, compliance, reporting, that's going to be really hard to implement cross cloud. Then a backup is only as good as the recovery capabilities that it provides, essentially. So if you think about recovery being quite manual in the public cloud, not super performant, missing things like single file recovery and so on, that becomes a challenge. And then finally, the cost the lack of cost optimization, I should say, in the public cloud, because there's a lack of storage steering, there's a lack of compression and deduplication, there's multiple clouds needing multiple tools. These all play into a higher cost and a higher TCO at the end of the day. If you then multiply this with multiple accounts across multiple clouds, that problem becomes sort of worse and worse and worse, especially then if you also need to think about a hybrid environment and SaaS solutions at the same time. So again, we unify all of this. We provide these capabilities across multiple clouds, but also across multiple stakeholders in the environment. So what that looks like then is we give you the capability to gain data visibility and control across those cloud environments. So understand the data that you have in the environment, then understand if it's protected in the right way, all from the same SaaS platform. We'll drive down the exposure, so we'll reduce the data theft potential in your environment. Then we'll allow you to confidently back up and restore all of the data across multi-cloud and SaaS, and all done again with a lower TCO potentially in mind. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for attending our session. If there's any questions, happy to take any email or reach out to me on x.com. I'm Philip V there, but happy to chat to you guys a bit more about our cyber resiliency capabilities. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Philip. And we do have a poll question for everybody. It's the last one. We appreciate your feedback on additional resources that you'd like to see from Rubrik. And it looks like we had a lot of questions that we can't get to right here, but we will forward those along to Philip and the Rubrik team and for follow-up after the event here. I'd also like to make one last reminder about the handouts. We've got a link from Rubrik where you can find out more about Rubrik's solutions for cyber resilience in the cloud. Be sure to check that out if you'd like more details about some of the things that Philip was talking about today. And thank you to everybody who's responded to the poll already. We do appreciate your feedback. I'll just leave it up here for another few moments, and then we'll move along. And while we leave the poll up, let's do our last prize drawing of the day. So the winner of the third and final $300 Amazon gift card is, give a little drum roll, Kyle Dermody from Arizona. Congratulations to Kyle. We'll be in touch about claiming your prize. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and close down that poll. Again, we really appreciate when you guys let us know what resources you would like. Thanks, everybody, for doing that. And if you were watching the event today and thinking that this type of event would be the ideal platform to tell folks about your platform or solution, well, we'd love to hear from you to help determine which of our hundreds of events each year would be a good fit for you. Just contact us at connect@actualtechmedia.com. And we're coming close to the end of the year, but we do have just a handful of great events remaining before the Christmas and New Year's break. I would be remiss if I didn't pitch 2 upcoming Expert Series events next week, because you're not going to want to miss them. The one on your screen here is about ransomware in 2025. That one is featuring all-star ransomware expert Alan Liska. Alan's going to spend about an hour with you detailing the latest research and trends about ransomware. Plenty of time in there for your questions as well. If you haven't seen one of Alan's ransomware presentations, you're in for a treat. He really knows his stuff and always surfaces new, interesting, and dangerous facets of the ransomware story. And not pictured is another expert series the next day on Wednesday, the 18th, about artificial intelligence in cybersecurity. This one features the outstanding presenter and true subject matter expert, Bill Clayman. Bill is knee-deep in the artificial intelligence world, and you'll learn a lot about in this one about how to level up your security game, both with AI-enhanced tools and from AI-enhanced attacks. So be sure to check both of those events out. We hope to see you there. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank all of our presenters today for putting together such great sessions and all their insights in the Q&A as well. I want to thank all of our participants for making this event possible, Akamai, SAP, LeanIX, and Rubrik. And finally, but not least, certainly, we'd like to thank all of you for attending today's EcoCast from Actual Tech Media and for all of your great questions. That's going to conclude today's event. Have a fantastic rest of your day.